Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today I'm taking a look at the recently launched Sea of Stars demo that dropped on the eShop. This one it's long been on my most anticipated list, so let's see if this small slice shows some promise. Let's get started. If you do enjoy the video, consider subscribing, helps a huge amount, and we have reviews and deals here daily. It's also worth noting this game it is a work in progress. They make this clear with a note opening the game, and that is the audio, visuals, difficulty and gameplay mechanics here, they are subject to change. Sea of Stars then comes from Sabotage Studios, the team behind The Messenger, and this is a prequel set in that same universe. The full story promises to be the adventure of two youngsters, Sail and Valerie, who can combine powers of the sun and moon to perform Eclipse Magic. This is the only force capable of battling monsters that an evil alchemist has summoned. This demo, however, it appears to throw you some way into this adventure, and for that reason it is very story light. Basically though, we join this small three-person team, the aforementioned Sail and Valerie, alongside a girl who it seems they just returned from some sort of quest via a stone golem transport system. Now it's established we are attempting to reach Wraith Island, and after visiting the local town we find a team of pirates that can help transport us. The catch, they want us to collect some sort of coin as payment. They do redact some information for spoilers' sake, understandably, but I am excited now for the full story, but I wouldn't say this demo really elevated that excitement, or at least from a story perspective as likeable as this cast may seem. So gameplay under this demo, it ensures you get a good feel for the adventure ahead of you with some minor exploration, some resource gathering and some combat. The main advice I will give here though is if like me you want to just jump straight into the gameplay, that would not be wise. Stop for a second because it does very little to explain what is happening here, and instead you should take a few minutes and read through the how to play option from the main menu. This honestly should have been forced by the game to ensure players understand as there's more than meets the eye in here, but you would never know without looking in here. The covered topics are traversal, survival and combat. So the exploration, first off, I really like. The world's not huge, but it's made of multiple pathways and it immediately establishes there's a lot of secrets to uncover. I always appreciate a game that adds just a little bit more for those that want to take things slower. It's really simple control-wise as well, and movement is with the left stick or my preferred D-pad option, and we can do the majority of interaction with a single button, think climbing or opening a chest. Nearly everything else then is automatic, swimming, walking a tightrope for example. We can also push objects, this far it's been cubes, and that's going to be with the Mistral bracelet. We also get our first dungeon as well, and this starts to introduce puzzles. It's going to be using that push system and it gives us some more unique pathways to understand. Basically the idea is standing on switches, it reorganizes the world around you, so it's really leaning into that magical aspect of the world. During exploration then we can of course run into enemies, which throws us into battle, and we can save our progress, we can camp, or we can take part in some minor side activities. I'm presuming there's side quests packed into the full release then, but here we do get to try our hand at fishing, which I really like. It's a simple system, more about directing your bait over complex inputs, but it is enjoyable and it appears essential because you can cook this at camp. This cooking essentially will fill up your inventory, and these goods can do everything from heal you in battle to restoring your mana. Combat then is by far the most entertaining aspect of the experience this far, and a strong turn-based system, it will be essential to any good classically influenced RPG like this one. This is where the how to play menu though is so essential because there's so much more going on here than the demo takes time to explain. First off, there's no time bars here, you can take as much time as you please, make calculated decisions, and the options are simple. A standard attack, skills which take mana, we have a combo option which is a meter which allows Sail and Valerie to team up, and we also get items. It seems at this juncture in the game then Gale is more of a support. Yes, he has heavy attacks, but his skills, they seem to focus on team restoration. Sail then is our sun lead, basically seems to be fire attacks, and Valerie has moon on her side, and this seems to be leaning into wind. The game's got a unique system, however, around timing, which makes it feel a little more action-packed than most in the turn-based genre. And that's really because basically press the A button when an attack is dealt or even as someone attacks you, and the timing, it can increase your damage or even decrease the damage taken. This game's setup, it seems pretty light. I was surprised not to see, for example, a defensive option in the move menu, so I'm curious to see now with progression how it all evolves. Like for example, I'm sure with progression we're going to see new moves unlocking. The game also uses vulnerability, so basically enemies will either be weak to certain attacks or resist certain attacks. There's 4 on offer here, that's Blunt, Sword, Moon and Sun, so I'm excited to see where they take this. The last 2 elements of combat then are perhaps my favourites, and that is we can boost with live mana. This is dropped on the battlefield, you use set R to absorb it, meaning you can be strategic about who gets it, and then they also have a system called locks. This is when an enemy is preparing for a special attack. A number of symbols will show above their head. We need to deal the relevant types of attacks to stop and cancel this. It changes what your aim is on the fly, and it leads to it being a little bit more surprising and I guess reactive. Naturally, this is a demo, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I'm curious to see how simple they keep it and where it will evolve to next. For example, I noted no map at this point of the game. Is that something we can expect? The lack of defenses outside of timing-based gameplay is unique, but will that come in at a later stage? How about our health and mana meters at this stage? They are incredibly low. Will this increase rapidly? Another couple of questions I have: will I ever be able to see my enemies' health bars? And why at the opening is it asking me to choose which of the 2 characters I control? Is this going to be important to the story? Will it change up what happens? Or is it really more just purely visual? Another thing that actually surprised me on the back of that generally was the game's simple approach towards leveling up. When I leveled, I got a choice of 1 of 4 options on where that extra power would go. Maybe I'd increase my attack damage, for example, or even my defenses. It's not the freedom I'm necessarily used to, but that is not also necessarily a bad thing. It feels very easy to get into, and if the characters can catch your attention, that may prove incredibly dangerous. I'm also curious to see how the ramp in difficulty is. We seem pretty evenly built here against our opponents, so will the challenge ramp drastically, leading to some grind, or will this fall perhaps on the easier side for the genre? As demos go though, gameplay wise, it's definitely left me with more questions than answers, but after such a long wait, I'm happy to get my hands on it. It shows a huge amount of promise to me personally, and now I hope the wait will be worth it and it evolves in a strong way. Visuals and audio then. Graphically, it's beautiful. The pixel art is stunning, with the characters' animations being a particular highlight. The locations as well, we went from greenery to cities to markets to a mystical looking dungeon, all in the space of 30 minutes, and each was as impressive as the last. This especially goes for the character portraits that accompany dialogue. The combat transition then is also impressive. It just snaps you all into place, no stutter, no loading screen, it's instant, and that made it difficult for me to put down. I did notice in some locations it can feel a little static. The bar, for example, it's busy, you can see a lot of people, but no one really moves, and that was just a little off-putting. Also, the music is stunning. I cannot wait to hear this full soundtrack, and the weapons and the attacks are particularly impressive, but the sound field is somewhat minimal. I'd love to see them lean into big sound fields to bring some of these locations even more to life. You know, let's go to the bar again as my example. It felt no less busy than the empty fields and mountainscapes. So that's my initial impressions. I'll say it again here as well because I think it's obvious. From this experience, I have more questions than answers. It somewhat got me more excited for the full release, and it's extremely easy here to see the potential. I do have complete faith in this team as well, but it's always difficult to give an example of what the game will be when this genre, they often have a few hours of story and mechanics just to set up, and that can often make them something incredible. This tries to overcome that with a how to play menu that should have probably not been optional and more forced upon the player to ensure everyone understands the mechanics before jumping in. So far though, the exploration I like, the combat's simplistic, but I like the action-based timing element, and the first dungeon was fun. It had a solid difficulty curve that asked you to solve some basic environmental puzzles. I also, at this point, really do like the cast. Let's just hope now it's something special come its full release in August. Have you checked out the demo then? If so, let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't checked it out yet, will you be taking a look? You can be through it in roughly 40 minutes at a relaxed pace, so it's definitely not a massive time commitment. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.